Mozart, we are live now. Thank you, Yash. So, everyone, welcome to this bi-weekly Meshery build and release meeting where we discuss everything related to like build and release process or testing strategies for different Meshery components like Meshery CTL, Meshery UI, and Meshery Self. Is there any newcomer on the call and would like to introduce ourselves? I don't know, Christopher, if you have joined the call previously, but would you like to kick off?
Okay, my name is Christopher. I did join the call, I think 2 weeks back. Uh, there was one before. I don't know, what should I explain exactly? What should I?
Yeah, just like in your area of interest or anything about you.
All right. So basically, I have a bit of experience in full stack development. I'm a little bit of back end, front end, and also QA. And purposely for joining this call, I just wanted to follow up on the testing, especially then that was being done of moving from Cypress to Playwright. I just wanted to probably know what what does that look like, or like what are the documents around that, the plan, and also how are the tasks going to be picked and stuff like that to avoid conflicts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, then you are at the right place. Yeah, we'll be discussing about playwright play. Jonathan, would you like to give an intro? I think you also joined for the first time.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jonathan. Yeah, I'm kind of new to the project, and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with everything. I've, started helping out with a little bit of UI stuff on the website, on the Layer 5 website. Yeah, I'm just kind of trying to see what's going on. Thank you.
Nice. Kevin, would you like to introduce?
My name is Kevin, and I am also like right now understanding what does the project exactly do, and uh, doing hands-on and all that thing, and attending this meeting to understand how the all process of development is going on and all. Yeah.
Any interest around like CI/CDs or testing, UI testing?
Uh, Actually, I have interest in development part, like specifically in backend Go language basically.
Okay, okay,
And
nice.
I also have knowledge in React as well, but like not as good. But yeah, I'm improving it right now.
Okay. Pratiksha, would you like to say something? I think you are also first time.
Hello everyone, I'm Pradiksha and I'm joining Meshery Build and Release meeting for the first time. I have been part of the newcomers and the website meeting, but I got an invitation for this meeting. So just to see what all is discussed and to know more about Meshery, I joined this meeting to know about it. Thank you.
Okay, nice. Okay. Okay, so if I missed anyone, please share the introduction inside Zoom chat or chat Slack newcomers channel. Okay, we'll start with the first item. I don't know, but I don't think like we have any of the folks on this call, but just to give a brief introduction. So there has been like in the previous meeting, we discussed like how to use Playwright or how the Playwright framework would be used and replacing Cypress as a testing framework inside Meshery UI. So, and this sheet particularly captures like for what of the components, what are the levels of like testing been implemented or needs to be implemented. So there are like various components and scenarios listed down. So if I go to particularly like Meshery UI thing, right now, if you like most of them would be under like using will be using Cypress, and we want to like migrate to uh, Playwright. And I think Abid has a PR which does some like this kind of migration. So and you can also help it out. Lee, would you like to shed light on like whether this is up to date? I don't think like it is up to date upon like what are the tests being implemented on the UI, like the integration or the end-to-end tests. So would you like to say something like where should we start from or
Yeah, well, so Abid isn't on the call, huh? And there's an open pull request as well. That might actually be the most accurate way of doing it. We might end up knocking out two birds with one stone. There's a recent PR that takes a crack at shifting us off of Cypress and I think onto Playwright. And yeah, I mean, one, we need to review the PR, and then two, if we take a look at it on this call, that might answer the question of what tests are currently out there. The test plan that we have, that spreadsheet, it really does need to be updated so we have a sense of where we have coverage and where we don't. I think a large part of the way that spreadsheet that all of you have a link to inside of the meeting minutes, a large part of the way that spreadsheet is written is from the perspective of like Meshery CTL. And that would just happen to be the component that we were talking about at the time. But as we talk about Playwright and end-to-end testing more and more, yeah, the order, the series, the rows that you're on are pretty good for end-to-end testing. Like, and these are largely probably fairly representative of what we've had in Cypress in the past. Like something that we don't have is like creating a new design, and that can just be using the Meshery UI designer. Create a new design and give it a name. Maybe put in one, or maybe it's just importing a design, like or importing a Helm chart or something like that. Those would be great.
Yes.
End-to-end tests.
I think we only need to update the test plan and also like put a priority to which tests we would like to get on first. So because some of these features got removed and some of these are not that high priority. So I think we just need to prioritize the testing.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, that like importing a Helm chart or importing a design, that could be like very simple test to start with, and also it would ensure like the basic functionalities of Meshery are in place. So I think, Christopher, this might be the test that you would like to start with or take your hands on. That's the first item. Okay, so Abid, would you like to add anything around like Playwright, or do you want to reference to some of the docs or guides that how you can write test or how to test it locally?
Yeah, so right now the initial PR for the scaffolding of Playwright and all of this setup has been already merged. So anybody who wants to write test, he can. And I also put out a guide. It's in the Google Docs, so I will share a link to that shortly, so you can read that and how we are managing the test and why everything is going to be. So that would be helpful for you. So I will put that in here. Apart from that, I think I will also clear up this test plan so we don't have any conflicts and everybody's on the right path.
No. Yes, that would be great. Okay, so I think we covered this second item. The next one is like continuous delivery setup to staging playground.meshery.io. So as some of you might be aware that Sangram is working on staging playground, wherein like we are able so that before any production release of Meshery, we are able to test the features or test any issues or bugs or regressions. So currently the scenario is like with every release, we had to like manually redeploy latest Meshery. So we are in need of a continuous delivery workflow so that every merge to a master branch redeploys the latest Meshery. So that users can like or developers can go and test it out whether there is any breaking changes or not. So that setup would be like quite simple. That's just a new workflow needs to be added. That would just be a replication of like the stable workflow, but the only change would be like instead of running a stable image, it would run the edge channel image. And there is another area that is like deployment previews for like uh, some of the playground site or something. Previously, like Deepak volunteered for uh, having this workflow or preview setup, but I don't think he's on the call. So if someone is interested on like GitHub Actions or have some familiarity with CI/CD, so they would like if they want to like take up this task and try it. Or if you have any further questions, like then you can ask it now so that you are set up for success. Or someone would like to add anything.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the task that needs to be picked up, I can certainly take a look into that.
Okay, that would be nice.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Yeah, I don't know. The message in Slack says that Deepak is vacationing. So I don't know for how long, and he's not here, and he didn't. And I've talked to him almost every day this week, and he hasn't described any progress in this regard. So I don't. So you are not stepping on his toes in any regard. Like,
Okay,
and
cool.
speaking of this, there have been one or more, and there currently are one or more automated deployments using GitHub workflows. There's one right now for the current playground. The current playground, Jared, if you remember, actually, we might even want to bring up the Meshery architecture slides. The current playground is deployed on a Docker host.
Right.
And I might be repeating stuff that you already know. So but that's this staging playground is Meshery deployed on a Kubernetes host, if I can say Kubernetes cluster. And so we can go really fancy, or we can go super simple in terms of like the use of tools to do a deployment, a rolling deployment, or like, whatever that is. So yeah, right now the tool that the workflow that deploys the playground, it gets initiated or triggered every time that there's a Meshery release. There was a Meshery release today. So you can look at the history of the fact that it executed, and really this one just executes, opens up an SSH session, goes into that Docker host, does it like a Docker compose down, Docker compose up kind of a thing, like it does some very simple commands. And Meshery itself is stateless. So users don't notice it, like because it's like a split second that it goes up and down, but that'll be slightly different mechanics inside of Kubernetes. So
Yeah, I think we would use the rollout or something. Previously, when we had like playground on Kubernetes, we were using like kubectl rollout strategy. So similarly, I think we could use that. Okay, so Jared, I think Jared, would you create an issue and assign it to yourself, or because so that we don't lose track of it?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. So next one is like
and by the
related
way,
to staging.
I'm sorry, just to help make sure that Jared's feeling comfortable and has a sense of, or I guess I'll ask this, Jared, do you have a sense of how you might approach this, or like anything else?
I'd probably want to take a look at like the existing GitHub action that you just mentioned for like the current playground. And then someone mentioned I thought I heard the word stable. Is that like I guess like a GitHub like workflow? Is there like already an existing workflow that runs on every merge to master that I just need to add like a job or a stage? I don't know what the GitHub terminology is.
Yeah, so with every merge, we build Docker image and publish it to Docker Hub with a edge channel. So there are two like stable and edge. So with every merge to master, we build Meshery image and publish it to Docker Hub. So that is what I was saying about like edge channel. So for staging playground, we would like to use that. So I think the playground, the workflow that you would be working on would be simple, just that it would invoke the existing workflows with like different configuration options and in a separate jobs. So yeah, that.
Let me take a different crack
Gotcha,
at that
okay.
real quick, just to help. So, eventually, I don't know if you guys know this, but my goal is to never have to say anything on these meetings. So I view it as a failure every time that I have to speak up. It's like, well, I've failed to communicate this. To be maybe, Jared, to help orient you a little bit, leaving GitHub completely aside, nothing to do with GitHub or GitHub Actions or GitHub Workflows, just Meshery as a project. We have decided at some point in the past, like, hey, let's make releases of this thing and deliver it to people. We could have said, hey, let's write all this code and sure, we'll do builds and stuff, but let's not make those public, or like, let's let people do their own builds. We could have stopped that. We didn't. We said, hey, let's do builds, and as we do builds, let's publish those so that they're easy to consume, so people can just download the container image and go. And we'll do it for, we did it, and then we expanded the support for the architectures that we built for. And so, hopefully we've got almost everything covered except for like Raspberry Pi. There's a little bit of, anyway, when we did that, we said, all right, well, let's do releases. So we'll have a release. Let's do releases. Hey, just having one release isn't enough. Let's make 2 channels, a stable channel. And by the way, Jared, interrupt at any point that this is old news to you. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
Somewhere in here, we talk all about release versioning and blah, 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 et cetera. All the things that are like of concern in this meeting. This no doubt could use with some updates. So I encourage everybody on the call that's into DevOps, and into CI and build and release and things, to make this this page home base for a little while, digest it and ask questions and call out where things might be stale. But so to continue with this intriguing story, we said, let's do releases, make builds and release these artifacts. Well, what will the artifacts be and where will they be stored? Well, we talk about that within here, that there will be artifacts. We will put them in certain repositories, blah, blah, blah. But we will have release channels. Let's have a stable release channel and an edge release channel. I won't even describe them. They're sort of self-explanatory. There's more that you guys can read through about. Okay, fine. And just as Jared was saying, every time that there's a merge now I'll talk about GitHub for just a moment. Just every time that there's a PR that's merged into the Meshery repo, and actually it's not just the Meshery repo, but anytime that there's a merge into any repo that releases an artifact like an adapter, well, there's a Docker container image that's built in that process, and that image is immediately released. There's a brand new edge release available every time a PR is merged. That's a pretty quick pace, considering we're the 10th fastest growing CNCF project out of 200. Did I mention that yet? Just want to make sure I've mentioned that before. It's a lot of work. And that's thanks to all of you. Then at some point we say, hey, it's time for we're ready for a stable release. This meeting is the one in which hopefully that type of a decision is ultimately officiated, and that there are team leads here, or component leads, or working group leads that say, well, no, we're not ready for a stable release because our rate of defect capture, our rate of regression is still within the last 2 trailing weeks we would have a very specific criteria about how this happens and the frequency by which it happens, and the requirements around certain end-to-end tests and unit tests and feature tests all passing, and just like so much more rigor than we have now. We have a decent amount of rigor, but you all are here hopefully to help make that even much more rigorous. So anyway, we do stable releases. Great. When we do a stable release, let's talk a little bit more about where Jared is headed. When we make a stable release today, there are a number of individual GitHub workflows initiated, and they operate in a string of successive or concurrent workflows. So all of you should have the ability to go, as long as you're signed into GitHub, you don't have to be a member of the org or anything. You just have to be signed in. You can go over and find the stable releaser and the edge releaser. So we take a look at the last stable one. It was earlier today. Open it up. And each of these represents jobs, or this is a job and this is a job and this is a workflow and that's a workflow. I don't know. There's jobs and steps and workflows, and one calls the next, and it gets sufficiently sophisticated. So Jared won't be bored. But somewhere in here, it says, well, things built and they seem to be all right. And it's probably time to update Meshery, the Meshery playground. And so Jared's going to be interested to go review this. I'm not going to spoil the surprise for him. He's going to go click on this and kind of digest it. And he's completely capable of understanding what is written there. What Jared's going to say is, well, that's what happens for the stable release that goes into this Docker environment. I get that. I'm going to look at something pretty similar for this other release, the Edge one, and I'll use, anyway, I don't have to finish my sentence. Probably he'll take it from there. This one's does a lot less. It doesn't have to do as much. It's noteworthy that we don't have an Edge release of Meshery CTL. That component, we don't create Edge releases for. Is that enough of a cliffhanger? Does anybody want to know why? I don't know. If you want to know why, go ask in the discussion forum. I'll tell you why. I'm about to shut up. The last thing that I think would be nice for you all to know in this same moment is those two types of releases that we do, the stable, or the two channels, the stable channel, the Edge channel. Why are they called channels? Like, it's because they are a subscription. That's the concept behind them. We want for people to get new versions of this software relatively briskly. And I'll leave it at that. Maybe that's a good homework assignment to go figure out like how these are a subscription. What do you mean? If I'm like running Meshery actively and you make a new release, all of a sudden it's going to auto upgrade. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. I don't know.
Yes.
I can tell you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Lee, for the explanation and leaving us with a quest. Okay. So next item is from like Sangram. It is related to the staging playground that we were discussing, like setting up of cloud native PG. So the idea is like the way we have staging playground.meshery.io, it uses a staging remote provider. So there is a production remote provider as well as the staging remote provider. So they are like currently the staging remote provider is in another environment. But the idea is to have both of them inside the same instance or same bare metal that we have for staging playground, and use the layer 5 cloud Helm chart. So if you don't have access to it, so layer 5. Okay, if someone would mind sharing that link in the chat.
Sure.
So
the link to the cloud
on-premise deployment. Yeah. So the idea is to have like that remote provider uses the Postgres setup. So with the help of this cloud native PG, Sangram is trying to set up a master replica of Postgres cluster, and he's using this cloud native PG operator. And there are a few questions still needs to be addressed. So the first one is like, some of you might be aware that Postgres has some of the extensions. So PG cron is one of the extensions that we use to schedule jobs, and one of the work for the job is like to refresh materialize views. So this is the extension. So we are not quite sure like how cloud native PG provides the support for this PG cron extension or extensions in general. So this is the area of research. So if Innocent or Jared or anyone else on the call is aware about PG cron extension and integration with cloud native PG, feel free to drop your ideas here. And there is like another issue wherein
Wait. Yeah, I don't know that we were going to get a volunteer that way, or I don't know that anyone, or maybe you're not looking for a volunteer, but if you are, I might give people an opportunity to ask questions. And maybe you're not, so I just,
Yes, I was thinking, okay. By the time I discuss the another related item to this cloud native PG, feel free to drop your questions and I will address it. Okay, so the other item is where like Sangram and I also tested it, like where we are facing issues. So this is the Helm chart that he's importing, the cloud native PG chart. So basically this cloud native PG chart has like three modes: standalone, recovery, and another one. So the way, because we are not importing or we are not importing an existing database, so we want the cluster to start in standalone approach, and the default values values.yaml like has the mode standalone. So when you import the Helm chart and everything gets set up, Meshery understand that Meshery templatizes or resolves those templates and creates a design such that it is compatible with like it's such that cluster starts in a standalone manner. But when you go and try to deploy this file, there is an issue happening wherein like cluster, even though the cluster is configured or this design is configured to start the cluster in standalone manner, it is going into recovery mode. So it is after starting the cluster, running the initialization scripts, it is looking for like an existing database to import from it and start the database. So this is particular the issue that he was facing, and I try to like replicate it and try to find the any like what could be the cause, but I was not able to. So, so these are the like two related issues. So if you have any questions or any suggestions or ideas, let us know. I hope like the issue was clear. So anyone have any idea? So it passes the validation. Okay, I will move forward.
So, Uzair, did you say that the design that you're working with is the design that Sangram was working on?
Yeah, Sangram design is this one. So I didn't mess up with his design, but created a replica of it and started to work with them.
Okay. And and the model provider for this is Jitsi. Okay. And because we were just chatting with the cloud native PG folks, and I guess I didn't realize that they were called Jitsi. Anyway, I'll go double check that that's the official release, the official one. You're saying right now, when we're saying that Meshery and its components require a Postgres database. As we look at deploying Postgres, like into the staging playground environment, for example, there's consideration right now by the community, by all of us, that we might use cloud native PG as the choice for running Postgres. There are a number of Postgres operators out there. This one looks like a good one to start with. And so we're attempting to use it. And in doing so, we're still familiarizing and still trying to understand how to make sure we're using it correctly. Right now, do we know if there's a specific error that's coming back or a specific hurdle?
I don't exactly remember the error, but it is somewhere like you have not configured an instance or a recovery store, such that like from where to import it, the existing database. So the error is like that.
Well,
I'll paste in one of the Slack channels.
Okay, so someone on the call might want to pick this up and engage a little bit on this topic. If you do, I'm gonna go into Slack and tag Sangram, the guy who's kind of focused here, other people on the call might want to join in and follow along or help advance this. I also just had a conversation recently with, Sangram Roth. I just had a conversation with a couple of the maintainers of Cloud Native PG. They were excited that Meshery might use their operator. They gave it a small YAML snippet of what it looks like to create an empty database. So I'll grab that and share it as well. So, so that I know who to look out for. Is anyone on the call interested in this specific topic? And if someone reaches out later and they didn't say it now, I may not engage with you. Schlock says that he is. That's too bad because Schlock is doing other things. Is anyone else interested in this particular topic? Okay.
I could volunteer to take a look at this as well.
Jared, very good. And Harsh, all right. Rohan, your last name starts with the W. Is that right? Good. Okay. Thanks. Who's there?
Thank you all for volunteering. Okay, so I think we all touched upon like what layer 5 cloud deployment or what is the setup currently we have for like the provider requires a Postgres cluster, and we are looking for using cloud native PG as an operator. There is one other item that is, I think Lee have previously shared the link for the layer 5 cloud Helm chart. So that Helm chart is like not have been used extensively, or we have not done the rigorous testing of it, like so that we are not sure like if that chart follows along the best practices for Helm chart or Kubernetes or such. So if someone is aware with like Helm or Kubernetes, we would like to call you or will ask you to like test this layer 5 cloud Helm chart for any security issues or best practices and such things. So you will find the guide on like how to add the layer 5 cloud Helm chart and test with it. The one easy way is to like just grab the link for the Helm chart and use Meshery to import it and then use mesh map to visualize it and everything. So that could be the other way that you do the testing. I will share the link again. Here we have mentioned like everything, the prerequisite that you need to take over and everything. One note that when you are using this chart doesn't uses cloud native PG as for Postgres, but rather uses like Bitnami charts for like deploying this for setting up the Postgres cluster. So that thing needs to be considered. Okay, and the next item is from me, like fail to add layer 5 Helm report. So this is particular in like I was recently testing like myself testing the cloud chart that I'm referring to, and when I'm like trying to use Helm CLI to do this, I'm faced with issue. For example, like if I do Helm repo add layer 5 and the link to the repository, it is complaining that it is not a valid chart or repository cannot be reached. But the link is like valid and it doesn't error out. For example, if I go and take the index.yaml, it responds correctly. So my hunch is like the way we have structured the repository for the Helm chart manifest has something to do with that. For example, it is under static and then there is like charts or something. Lee, would you like to point out like where is that?
Yeah, sorry. Where is it that the Helm chart itself is published? It's in the repo docs or the docs repo.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And I dropped a link into the Zoom chat just a little bit earlier. It's for those that are on the call. There's a documentation page that talks about what this Helm chart is and how to use it. And the Helm chart itself is automatically published out here. Actually, it's probably a little easier for people to, if you go to docs.layer5.io, I mean, just in terms of like people navigating to it later. So layer 5 produces some extensions to Meshery, and one of those is this remote provider. It's where you get a user account and other extensions. There's this self-hosted section on the docs site, and it talks about how to deploy your own instance of that remote provider of that cloud. And it offers up a Helm chart. So there you go. This page is probably the one that people are looking for. So this
I
is
shared the link previously.
oh, it is.
Okay.
And it also
Yeah,
has a
you
link to
can
like where the chart is published.
you can use that. Yes, this page is a like good reference to like how to get started with your own deployment for remote provider. Okay, so getting back to my issue that I was facing. So when I'm like using the steps mentioned here, like just copy pasting the steps and trying to deploy it myself, there is an if I directly download this StarGZ and use Helm install and point to a local file reference, it works fine and everything is okay. But when I'm trying to use the Helm repository, it is complaining that it is not able to find the chart. And it could be because the way we have structured the repository, like it is under static and then charts and then the actual Helm manifest or Helm artifacts. So we might like shift this to one level up because I checked the meshery.io/charts repository or meshery.io repository. The structure is like structure represent like it. There is no static folder as a parent directory, so it could be messing up with the Helm CLI or Helm is not able to find that. Or do you have any other thoughts around it?
If you visit docs.layer5io/charts and you, yeah.
Yeah, this works perfectly fine, and even this, I'm able to get to this index.yaml.
And then the links inside of here that point to both the subcharts and the chart itself, the parent chart. Okay, that's probably wrong. Where it has charts twice, like it says, yeah, that's wrong. Static charts, it says charts, static charts. Or so we have a bug. So yeah, that makes sense.
Is anyone interested in fixing this bug? This is completely related to like how we publish charts and everything. Okay, moving on to next item. Shlok, would you like to discuss about like Meshery ETL unit test and the current scenario about where the Meshery ETL test lie? Like, what is the status around it?
Yeah, hello. Uh, so currently, we recently fixed the Meshery workflow. Uh, so the workflow was failing, and still the coverage. Most of the test cases are empty. The unit test cases I'm talking about. So they are empty. So if anyone wants to start writing the test cases, or I'll myself by start writing the test cases. So you can start. You can reference this over here, and you'll get to know which of the test cases are missing. So here it says no test files. So you can start by here. Along with that, we have a tracker where, and we don't cover any integration tests. So here, these are all the commands that are missing some integration tests. So uh, today I started looking at them. So I'll start looking at them. You can also create an issue, start working on the integrations test over here. Any questions, anyone?
Aditya, do you have any thoughts or any suggestions about the current setup of Meshery, because like most of the time like Meshery unit tests fail, and whatever the unit tests that we have like are not robust enough for the unit test doesn't make sense. So having an end-to-end or integration test is more meaningful, and uh, and constantly we are required to like update those golden files manually if like there is any change in the test or sessions. So do you want to continue with the existing framework, or what do you think, like should follow another approach?
Mm, existing itself would be fine, Uzair, in my opinion. But as you said, for the unit test alone, we need to keep updating the test data files there and there. For example, if we change the command, update the command at one point, then the unit test might fail at one point because what we have provided the input there would be different, would give a different output there. So regarding, yeah.
Yeah, but when it's inside those session files, we are like we are just copy pasting the command. Like whatever we get, the command as an output. We are like some of the contributors like don't verify it and just copy paste that inside the golden files, and that a session happens. And in some of the things, there is also like if even if like one of the comma or one of the punctuation misses or any there are indentation changes, the result is like the test starts to fail. So that is like very flaky. So the assertion should be on the, I think, the responses that we're receiving. For example, if there is a machine model list, so that should be based on the actual response received rather than how it gets formatted on the command line or output screen. So can we do this with the existing framework, or we still required to like whatever the output we get on the command screen, we need to assert on that?
Um, so, my opinion, what it depends who's there, because sometimes the output received on the screen might be different whatever we write on the test cases. So it's best to replicate them. But as you said, there will be sometimes spacing issues. For example, uh, whenever we write the test cases, there would be some 4 to 5 tab spaces instead of just a single space. So yeah, that might also cause an issue over here. So while writing the test cases, one should keep a note of that, of the spacing, as well as whatever they get output on the screen also. So yeah, currently we are going with the old framework, but if there's any new test framework which resolves all these issues, then we are welcome to adopt it as such.
Are you aware of any like? Are you aware like what kubectl or Hugo CLI uses? Like I think
No.
that would be a point of research, because their testing strategies, like I think, are robust enough.
Yeah, you have a point. I It's been a long time, so I think looking at the test approach for from the kubectl, or I think we might get an idea on establishing this. So that's one point.
So I think you are only the like only experienced enough in Meshery. So would you like to take this research item or like collaborate with me or others? Are you open for that?
I think I would be open for collaboration with you as well. That will also work fine.
Okay.
And the other issue was the mesh ETL system start. So I just resolved the point you made, and uh, the docs. We need to update the docs related to the include file. It doesn't guide you properly. The docs says that you have to write it below annotations, but that particular line of code needs to be put directly to the markdown file. So it's quite wrong. So we'll need to update that as well. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Shubham, for sharing your update. So next one we have like linker D adapter test failing. this is partly related to the recent change that we have. We migrated to V1 beta 1, and the components are still on the older versions, V1 alpha 1. This is one of the issues, but from very long as well, uh, the before we even migrated to V1 beta 1, the tests were like continuously failing, and many of the times, like many of the contributors have volunteered for it, but have not find the actual cause. So if Ibrahim is on the call, he was recently working on this. He might like to share some updates. I think we don't have him. So particularly the issue happens like we start Meshery server on client cluster, we set up everything, we set up cluster and everything, and start adapter starts to register the components, and we have sample files under service mesh patterns, and we try to use Meshery to apply this, and then continuously poll about like continuously poll using kubectl that whether the design is deployed and the available components are created inside the cluster or not. So this is how the current setup of this end-to-end test is. It is now failing at the build step. I will share the link for this app, GitHub
Hi.
run.
Just for some context, so as I was working on this, I got into an issue with the pattern files for Meshery Linkerd. So I'm on that detour of fixing how the pattern files work, then I'll get back to the CI/CD pipeline, but it's all connected while the tests are failing.
Okay, nice.
Wait,
Okay,
okay.
so the next,
just to clarify, like, so we do know why the tests are failing and we do have a fix in the works? Or no?
It's not a direct fix as I'm currently updating the schemas and the components to V1 beta 1. But after I've done all of that, I'll get back to the CI/CD pipeline because the issue with the current CI/CD pipeline, at least before I saw this error, was the pattern file that was getting updated at the point of getting applied, it was saying the component Meshery Linkerd didn't exist in the database. So from that error, I started working on updating. When I talked to Uza, he said they're migrating everything to V1 beta 1. So I took up that task in light of solving the error that was showing about a week ago. So I'm on that path, and after solving that, I'll get back to what is currently showing. I'm not sure why we have this current error, but I'll get back to it.
it makes sense, Ibrahim. That is like completely interlinked with one another, the test and the migration and everything. Okay. So this is an item where so every night we go to Meshery playground environment and try to clean the playground, the resources, so that we free up resources, and if there are any terminating namespaces or resources, they are not consuming resources but are cleaned up so that playground has enough resources to work upon. So this PR, what it does is, so basically up till here, what we do is we only go to the namespaces that are not listed here. So these are the namespaces that we care about, or these are the namespaces in which there are some resources that we care about and we don't want them to be deleted. So what we do is like, except these namespaces, we delete all of those namespaces and also clear out the finalizers if there are any. So if there are any finalizer listed on the Kubernetes namespace, we try to clear them out and force delete them and completely clean up the namespaces. But for the resources, for example, I have seen in many scenarios that there are pods that are in like back of state or terminating state or crash log book back off or not able to pull the image. And so in these phases there are like many of the pods in cube system or default namespace or monitoring namespace. So this PR ensures that it clears all the pods that are not in phase running and not in container creating phase, but in like pending state or crash to back of state. So this PR like delete all those pods inside these valid namespaces. So this is the crux of like what this PR does. And there were like some concerns from like Jared and Lee. I think I addressed most of them, but Lee, do you have any further questions? I think Jared is like fine with these changes.
Yeah, that is delete. I was like looking at this for a couple weeks. I was like, what am I missing here? Yeah, it looks good to me now.
Looks good.
Well, so
It's a good
this
thing
was
Jared caught it because I missed it. So yeah, that's great.
okay. So this is what we had for today's build and release meetings. We have like 6 minutes more. So if anyone wants to discuss any issues or have any questions about the items we discussed, they can.
Yeah, I wanted to circle back on the CD for staging playground. Realized after we had that talk, I'm still a little bit unsure. Do we want to deploy a new staging playground on every edge release or stable release?
On every edge release.
Got it.
Any more queries?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Hello everyone. I joined late and I think I wasn't aware that apart
Your
from
voice
this
is very low.
class-
We cannot hear you clearly, Shivani.
Hello, is it fine now?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically I wasn't aware that apart from the discussion forum, we can attend the meetings. I'm really sorry. I joined late as well. And I had this issue where I was setting up the layer 5 for Sistine. I might be pronouncing it wrong. Like I have tried everything. Every time it's giving me different error, and I tried to put it on the discussion form as well. And I also figured out like if anyone else is having the same issue, but I realized no one having the same issue. I checked all the questions raised there. So just wanted to know like what am I doing wrong? Like what are the steps that I should follow?
Okay. So Akshay is one of the contributor who is like actively working on a system. Would you share your environment details like the node version or the OS that you are using? And Akshay might offer a better helping hand.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that. If like is he in the meeting? Because then
Oh no, open a new discussion forum like thread, and then you can paste in the details and tag Akshay or Yash or Abid.
Okay, sure, I'll do that. Yeah, yeah, that's the issue I wanted to raise.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So if no one has anything to discuss or ask, I think we can wrap up for today.
Yes, Shivani, on that topic, real briefly, the project page for Systent, which was named after consistent, or it's just like an abbreviation. It's really lacking the steps to build. I think the repo has them, but the project page itself, it's well, it barely looks like a project, actually. When you look at the project page, it's super lightweight. And so one, you have a well-placed question, and then two, based on asking and answering the question, you definitely have an opportunity to update, to pave the way for some of the rest that are following behind you on building that and how Systent as a project works. It's quite, thanks a bunch, Jared. it's quite vital to Meshery UI and to Layer 5 Cloud and to, is there another project? And eventually to Layer 5 IO. Like there's a number of projects that use those components. And so it's quite an active project, the Assistant project, but it is really underrepresented on the project site itself. Did you find that to be true as well?
Yeah, like I thought like when I was figuring out for every other project, there were more clear documentation and everything, but for Sustain, I was not able to get.
Yeah.
Is it the same thing you mentioned? Like,
Yep, it's the one that I'm calling.
yeah. So yeah, it's like when we check other projects, like it's clear on some points what steps to follow and everything, but in that one, it's like very hard to understand what exactly we want to do.
Yeah. And are you largely referencing this site here, or are you referencing the repo?
Yeah, actually, I was telling in the repo basically. So I
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, got you. Yeah. Well, good. Well, Akshay is on the call, so he's gonna reach out and yeah, but please don't hesitate to make a mess or make a bunch of noise on the repo or in the forum, or very good of you to join this call, and I guess you don't need to be encouraged to make some noise. You just did, so that's great.
Yeah, I'll do that. Don't worry.
Thanks so much for hosting, Uzair.
Okay. Thank you all for joining. I think we are on exact time.
All right. See you later. Bye, Uzair. Bye, Akshay.
Bye.
Everyone.